session, we have to discuss about mechanism of drug action, drug receptor interactions. First of all, receptor. In biochemistry and pharmacology, a receptor is a macromolecule that receives chemical signals from outside the cell. When such chemical signals bind to a receptor, they cause some form of a cellular or tissue response. Example, a change in the electrical activity of the cell. In this sense, a receptor is a protein molecule that recognizes and responds to endogenous chemical signals. Example, the acetylcholine receptor recognizes and responds to its endogenous ligand acetylcholine. However, sometimes in pharmacology, the term is also used to include other proteins that are drug targets, such as enzymes, transporters and ion channels. Receptor proteins are embedded in the cell's plasmatic membranes facing extracellular or cell surface receptors, cytoplasmic or cytoplasmic receptors, or in the nucleus or nuclear receptors. A molecule that binds to a receptor is called a ligand and can be a peptide or short protein or another small molecule such as a neurotransmitter, hormone, pharmaceutical drug, toxin or parts of the outside of a virus or a microbe. The endogenously designated molecule for a particular receptor is referred to as its endogenous ligand. Example, the endogenous ligand for the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor is acetylcholine, but the receptor can also be activated by nicotine and blocked by curare. Each receptor is linked to a specific cellular biochemical pathway. While numerous receptors are found in most cells, each receptor will only bind with ligands of a particular structure, much like how locks will only accept specifically shaped keys. When a ligand binds to its corresponding receptor, it activates or inhibits the receptor's associated biochemical pathway. Now, let us discuss theories of drug receptor interaction. The first one is occupation theory. The central dogma of receptor pharmacology is that drug effect is directly proportional to number of receptors occupied. Furthermore, drug effect ceases as drug receptor complex dissociates. Arians and Stephenson introduced the terms affinity and efficacy to describe the action of ligands bound to receptors. Affinity. Ability of the drug to combine with receptor to create drug receptor complex is called affinity. Efficacy is the ability of the drug receptor complex to initiate a response. Now, rate theory. In contrast to the accepted occupation theory, rate theory proposes that the activation of receptors is directly proportional to the total number of encounters of the drug with its receptors per unit time. Pharmacological activity is directly proportional to the rates of dissociation and association, not number of receptors occupied. Agonist. Drug with fast association and fast dissociation is called agonist. Partial agonist. Drug with intermediate association and intermediate dissociation. And antagonist is the drug with fast association and slow dissociation. Next is induced fit theory. As the drug approaches the receptor alters the conformation of its binding site to produce drug receptor complex. Spare receptors. In some receptor systems, example acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction in smooth muscles, agonists are able to elicit maximal response at very low levels of receptor occupancy, that is less than 1%. Thus, the system has spare receptors or receptor reserve. This arrangement produces an economy of neurotransmitter production and release. The structures of receptors. The structure of receptors are diverse and can broadly be classified into the following categories. That is type 1. Type 1 ionotropic receptors. These receptors are typically the targets of fast neurotransmitters such as acetylcholine or nicotinic and GABA, and activation of these receptors results in changes in ion movement across the membrane. They have a heterostructure. Each subunit consists of the extracellular ligand binding domain and a transmembrane domain, where the transmembrane domain in turn includes 4 transmembrane alpha helixes. The ligand binding cavities are located at the interface between the subunits. Next is type 2. G protein coupled receptors or metabotropic. This is the largest family of receptors and includes the receptors for several hormones and slow transmitters. Example, dopamine, metabotropic glutamate. They are composed of 7 transmembrane alpha helices. The loops connecting the alpha helices form extracellular and intracellular domains. The binding site for larger peptidic ligands is usually located in the extracellular domain, whereas the binding site for smaller non-peptidic ligands is often located between the 7 alpha helices and one extracellular loop. These receptors are coupled to different intracellular effector systems via G proteins. Next is type 3, kinase linked and related receptors. These receptors are composed of an extracellular domain containing the ligand binding site and an intracellular domain, often with enzymatic function, linked by a single transmembrane alpha helix. Example, the insulin receptor. Type 4, which is nuclear receptors. While they are called nuclear receptors, these are actually located in the cytosol and migrate to the nucleus after binding with their ligands. They are composed of a C-terminal ligand binding region, a core DNA binding domain which is called DBD, and an N-terminal domain that contains the AF1 or activation function 1 region. The core region has 2 zinc fingers that are responsible for recognizing the DNA sequences specific to this receptor. The N-terminal interacts with other cellular transcription factors in a ligand independent manner, and depending on these interactions, it can modify the binding or activity of the receptor. Steroid and thyroid hormone receptors are examples of such receptors. Membrane receptors may be isolated from cell membranes by complex extraction procedures using solvents, detergents, and or affinity purification. The structures and actions of receptors are often studied by biophysical methods such as X-ray crystallography, NMR, circular dichroism, and dual polarization interferometry. Computer simulations of the dynamic behavior of receptors have been used to gain understanding of their mechanism of action. Now, let us discuss about ligands. Ligands are the endogenous substances, molecules or compounds which bind with the receptors present in the body. Example, acetylcholine, adrenaline, noradrenaline, neurotransmitters like glutamate, aspartate, and GABA. They produce various effects and interfere with the flow of ions through channels called ligand-gated channels. Their actions may resemble with natural ligand and block the natural ligand. Agonists, antagonists, and partial agonists comes under this. Agonists or receptors can be activated by either endogenous such as hormones and neurotransmitters or exogenous such as drugs. Agonists resulting in a biological response. A physiological agonist is a substance that creates the same bodily responses but does not bind to the same receptor. An endogenous agonist for particular receptor is a compound naturally produced by the body that binds to and activates the receptor. For example, the endogenous agonist for serotonin receptors is serotonin, and the endogenous agonist for dopamine receptors is dopamine. A superagonist is a compound that is capable of producing a greater maximal response than the endogenous agonist for the target receptor, and thus has an efficacy of more than 100%. This does not necessarily mean that it is more potent than the endogenous agonist, but is rather a comparison of the maximum possible response that can be produced inside the cell following receptor binding. Full agonists bind or have affinity for and activate a receptor, producing full efficacy at that receptor. One example of a drug that acts as a full agonist is isoproterenol, which mimics the action of adrenaline at beta adrenoreceptors. Another example is morphine, which mimics the action of endorphins at mu-opioid receptors throughout the central nervous system. Partial agonists such as buspirone, aripiprazole, buprenorphine or norclozapine also binds and activate a given receptor, but have only partial efficacy at the receptor relative to a full agonist, even at maximal receptor occupancy. Agents like buprenorphine are used to treat opiate dependence for this reason, as they produce milder effects on the opioid receptor with lower dependence and abuse potential. An inverse agonist is an agent that binds to the same receptor binding site as an agonist for that receptor and inhibits the constitutive activity of the receptor. Inverse agonists exert the opposite pharmacological effect of a receptor agonist, not merely an absence of the agonist effect as seen with antagonist. An example is the cannabinoid inverse agonist rimonabant. A co-agonist works with other co-agonists to produce the desired effect together. NMDA receptor activation requires the binding of both glutamate, glycine and D-serine co-agonists. An irreversible agonist is a type of agonist that bind permanently to a receptor through the formation of covalent bonds. A few of these have been described. A selective agonist is selective for a specific type of receptor. Example, buspirone is a selective agonist for serotonin 5-HT1A. New findings that broaden the conventional definition of pharmacology demonstrate that ligands can concurrently behave as agonist and antagonist at the same receptor depending on effector pathways or tissue type. Terms that describe this phenomenon are functional selectivity, protein agonism or selective receptor modulators. Next is antagonists. A receptor antagonist is a type of receptor ligand or drug that blocks or dampens agonist mediated responses rather than provoking a biological response itself upon binding to a receptor. They are sometimes called blockers. Examples include alpha blockers, beta blockers and calcium channel blockers. In pharmacology, antagonists have affinity but no efficacy for their cognate receptors, and binding will disrupt the interaction and inhibit the function of an agonist or inverse agonist at receptors. Antagonists mediate their effects by binding to the active or orthosteric, that is right place site, or to allosteric or the other place sites on receptors, or they may interact at unique binding sites not normally involved in the biological regulation of the receptor's activity. Antagonist activity may be reversible or irreversible depending on the longevity of the antagonist receptor complex, which in turn depends on the nature of antagonist receptor binding. The majority of drug antagonists achieve their potency by competing with endogenous ligands or substrate at structurally defined binding sites on receptors. Next is partial antagonists. In pharmacology, partial agonists are drugs that bind to and activate a given receptor, but have only partial efficacy at the receptor relative to a full agonist. They may also be considered ligands which display both agonistic and antagonistic effects when both a full agonist and partial agonist are present. The partial agonists actually act as a competitive antagonist competing with the full agonist for receptor occupancy and producing a net decrease in the receptor activation observed with the full agonist alone. Clinically, partial agonists can be used to activate receptors to give a desired submaximal response when inadequate amounts of the endogenous ligands are present, or they can reduce the overstimulation of receptors when excess amounts of the endogenous ligands are present. Some currently common drugs that have been classed as partial agonists at particular receptors include buspirone, aripiprazole, buprenorphine and norclozapine. Examples of ligands activating peroxisome proliferated activated receptor gamma as partial agonists are honokiol and falcarindiol. Next, let us go through the types. First one, competitive. Competitive antagonists, also known as surmountable antagonists, reversibly bind to receptors at the same binding site or active site as the endogenous ligand or agonist, but without activating the receptor. Agonists and antagonists compete for the same binding site on the receptor. Once bound, an antagonist will block agonist binding. The level of activity of the receptor will be determined by the relative affinity of each molecule for the site and their relative concentrations. High concentration of a competitive agonist will increase the proportion of receptors that agonist occupies. Higher concentration of the antagonist will be required to obtain the same degree of binding site occupancy. In functional assays using competitive antagonists, a parallel rightward shift of agonist dose response curves with no alteration of the maximal response is observed. The interleukin 1 receptor antagonist IL-1RA is an example of a competitive antagonist. The effects of a competitive antagonist may be overcome by increasing the concentration of agonist. Often, though not always, these antagonists possess a very similar chemical structure to that of the agonist. Non-competitive. The term non-competitive antagonism, sometimes called non-surmountable antagonist, can be used to describe two distinct phenomena. One in which the antagonist binds to the active site of the receptor and one in which the antagonist binds to an allosteric site of the receptor. While the mechanism of antagonism is different in both of these phenomena, they are both called non-competitive because the end results of each are functionally very similar. Unlike competitive antagonists, which affect the amount of agonist necessary to achieve a maximal response but do not affect the magnitude of that maximal response, non-competitive antagonists reduce the magnitude of the maximum response that can be attained by any amount of agonist. This property earns them the name non-competitive because their effects cannot be negated no matter how much agonist is present. In functional assays of non-competitive antagonists, depression of the maximal response of agonist dose response curves and in some cases rightward shift is produced. The rightward shift will occur as a result of a receptor reserve, also known as spare receptors, seen in pharmacodynamics. An inhibition of the agonist response will only occur when this reserve is depleted. An antagonist that binds to the active site of a receptor is said to be non-competitive if the bond between the active site and the antagonist is irreversible or nearly so. This usage of the term non-competitive may not be ideal. However, since the term irreversible competitive antagonism may also be used to describe the same phenomenon without the potential for confusion with the second meaning of non-competitive antagonism, which is discussed below. The second form of non-competitive antagonists act at an allosteric site. These antagonists bind to a distinctly separate binding site from the agonist, exerting their action to that receptor via the other binding site. They do not compete with agonists for binding at the active site. The bound antagonist may prevent conformational changes in the receptor required for receptor activation after the agonist binds. Cyclothiazide has been shown to act as a reversible non-competitive antagonist of mGlu-R1 receptor. Next is uncompetitive. Uncompetitive antagonists differ from non-competitive antagonists in that they require receptor activation by an agonist before they can bind to a separate allosteric binding site. This type of antagonism produces a kinetic profile in which the same amount of antagonist blocks higher concentration of agonist better than lower concentration of agonist. Memantine used in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease is an uncompetitive antagonist of NMDA receptor. Next is silent antagonist. Silent antagonists are competitive receptor antagonists that have zero intrinsic activity for activating a receptor. They are true antagonists, so to speak. The term was created to distinguish fully inactive antagonists from weak partial agonist or inverse agonist. Partial agonist. Partial agonists are defined as drugs that at a given receptor might differ in the amplitude of the functional response that they elicit after maximal receptor occupancy. Although they are agonist, partial agonists can act as a competitive antagonist in the presence of a full agonist as it competes with the full agonist for receptor occupancy, thereby producing a net decrease in the receptor activation as compared to that observed with the full agonist alone. Clinically, their usefulness is derived from their ability to enhance deficient systems while simultaneously blocking excessive activity. Exposing a receptor to a high level of partial agonist will ensure that it has a constant weak level of activity, whether its normal agonist is present at high or low levels. In addition, it has been suggested that partial agonism prevents the adaptive regulatory mechanism that frequently develop after repeated exposure to potent full agonist or antagonist. Buprenorphine, a partial agonist of the mu opioid receptor, binds with weak morphine-like activity and is used clinically as an analgesic in pain management and as an alternative to methadone in the treatment of opioid dependence. Next is inverse agonist. An inverse agonist can have effects similar to those of an antagonist, but causes a distinct set of downstream biological responses. Constitutively, active response that exhibit intrinsic or basal activity can have inverse agonists which not only block the effects of binding agonists like a classical antagonist, but also inhibit the basal activity of the receptor. Many drugs previously classified as antagonists are now beginning to be reclassified as inverse agonists because of the discovery of constitutive active receptors. Antihistamines, originally classified as antagonists of histamine H1 receptors, have been reclassified as inverse agonists. Now, let us have a quick look at what we have discussed in this unit. The whole topic discusses about the interaction of drug toward receptor. This chapter also discusses about different drug receptor interaction like occupation theory, rate theory and induced fit theory. Different category of inhibitors like agonist, partial agonist, antagonist were also discussed in the topic. Different structures of receptors like ionotropic, G protein coupled, kinase linked and nuclear receptors were also discussed in the chapter. Before we attend the next session, please try to answer the following questions. First one, explain about various theories of drug receptor interaction. Second, explain about competitive, non-competitive and uncompetitive antagonists. Third, explain about partial and inverse agonists. Here are some books for your further reference. The Receptor Concept, Pharmacology's Big Idea by Rank HP 2006. Principles, Receptor Theory in Pharmacology by Kanakin T 2004. On the reaction of cells and of nerve endings to certain poisons, chiefly as regards the reaction of striated muscle to nicotine and to curare by J. N. Langley, 1905. What systems can and can't do by Kanakin T. 2008. On the stimulation and paralysis of nerve cells and of nerve endings by Langley J. 1901. Hope the session was useful for you. See you next time. Until then, bye.